If you've been waiting for the conflict to resolve before you let yourself feel okay, this episode is for you. Not because I'm going to tell you that conflict doesn't matter, not because I have a formula that makes hard relationships easy, but because I think you've been carrying a belief that is quietly costing you everything. My name is Jill Pack. This is the Seasons of Joy podcast, and this is episode number 194, Finding Joy Before the Conflict Resolves. And today we're talking about joy, not the kind that requires your circumstances to be perfect first, the real kind, the kind that's actually available to you right now. In the middle of the hard thing, on the days when nothing has resolved and nothing looks different yet. So let's dive in. I want to start with a question. When was the last time you felt genuinely okay? Not because something got better, but just because you were okay. I'm going to give you a second with that. For a lot of women I work with, and honestly for me in my own hard seasons, that question lands with a kind of quiet grief. Because okay has been conditional for so long. Okay when things calm down. Okay when the relationship heals. Okay when she finally responds. Okay when I figure out what I did wrong. Okay has become something we're waiting to earn. And I want to talk about that today because I think the war most of us are fighting isn't actually with the other person. It's with ourselves. Here's what I want you to notice, and I want you to be honest with yourself as you listen. Do you have a background track? John Acuff calls it a soundtrack. I'm talking about the one that runs underneath everything else, the one that sounds like, what did I do wrong? What should I have said differently? What does it say about me that this is still happening? What kind of person ends up here? What's wrong with me? Now, it doesn't always have to sound dramatic. It doesn't always have to feel like a crisis. Sometimes it's just this low hum of not enough, should have, what's wrong with me, running underneath an otherwise functional life. That's what I mean by self-war. And here's what I've learned about it after years of doing this work. This war is exhausting in a way that's almost impossible to describe to someone who isn't in it, because it never stops. It doesn't take a day off. You can be laughing at dinner and still have a corner of your mind running the verdict. You can be doing everything right on the outside and still feel like the defendant in a trial that never ends. You are simultaneously the prosecutor, the defendant, and the jury. And the trial never reaches a verdict because the verdict isn't really what it's about. This war isn't trying to solve anything. It's trying to protect you. It's your nervous system's way of saying, if I can just find the answer, I can make this stop hurting. But it can't, and it won't, because it's not how it works. This war is costing you. It's costing you your mornings, the first few minutes before your brain fully wakes up. The ones that could be quiet are instead the opening arguments of the day's case. It's costing you your sleep, because the trial runs at 2 a.m. too. It's costing you your presence. You can be in a room full of people you love and still be somewhere else entirely, back in the conversation that went wrong, forward to the one you're dreading, nowhere near the moment you are actually standing in. And it's costing you your relationships, including the hard one you're trying to fix, because a woman who is at war with herself can't show up the way she wants to. She's operating from threat. She's running on empty. She's reacting from survival instead of responding from values. The thing she's trying to protect the relationship with, her constant vigilance, her self-monitoring, her endless analysis, is the very thing that makes genuine connection harder. That's the cruel irony of self-war. It feels like it's helping. It feels like if you just think hard enough, examine carefully enough, hold yourself accountable enough, you'll find the answer and the relationship will heal. But it doesn't work. And somewhere inside you, you already know that. This is where I want to bring in something that matters deeply to me: grace. Grace, by its very nature, is not something we earn. It's not waiting on the other side of a resolved relationship. It's not the reward for finally figuring out what we did wrong. It's not conditional on circumstances getting better first. It's available right now in the middle of the hard thing, before anything changes. Now, this is not just a self-help idea. It's the promise that the Savior gave us. He is the one who offers peace that passes all understanding. And I want you to notice that phrase, it passes understanding. It doesn't require you to have figured everything out first. It doesn't wait for comprehension. It doesn't come after the verdict. It comes in the middle of not knowing, the not resolving, the still hurting. That peace is already being offered to you right now in this. But here's what I've noticed in myself and in the women I work with. Grace doesn't get through when we're in the middle of a verdict. When we're deep in the prosecution of ourselves, when every ounce of our energy is going toward finding the answer, fixing the relationship, earning the peace, our hands are full, and there's no room to receive what's already being offered. Joy isn't the reward at the end of the hard season. Joy is what becomes possible when we put down the case long enough to let grace in. So what does it actually look like to stop fighting yourself? Now, I want to be honest, it's not a one-time decision. It's not a moment where you declare a ceasefire and you wake up the next morning at peace. That's not how this works. It's a decision that is made slowly, repeated daily, and never perfectly. It starts with noticing the background track, not trying to silence it, just noticing it. Oh, there's that thought loop. There's that verdict loop. There's the prosecution starting up again. That noticing, that tiny moment of awareness, is curiosity. Getting genuinely curious about what's happening inside of you instead of being swept away by it. Then it moves to a question. Not, what did I do wrong, but what do I need right now? That's a completely different question. One keeps you in the middle of the trial. The other brings you back home to yourself. And slowly, not all at once, not without setbacks, the war begins to quiet. Not because the relationship resolved, not because the hard thing went away, but because you made a decision again and again to stop making your peace conditional on something outside of your control. That decision is not giving up on the relationship. It's actually the most important thing you can do for it. Because when you are no longer at war with yourself, when you are regulated, grounded, operating from your values instead of your fear, you become someone who can actually connect, actually listen, actually extend the empathy that was buried under all of that self-prosecution. The path to connection with others runs straight through peace with yourself. Now, I want to leave you with a question to just sit with. Where have you been making your peace conditional? You don't have to answer out loud. You don't have to know what to do with the answer yet. Just let the question land and settle inside of you. Because I think somewhere inside of you, you already know. And I think part of you has been waiting for permission from the relationship, from the resolution, from the moment you finally figure out what you did wrong. I want to be the voice today that tells you this. You don't have to wait. The grace that makes joy possible is not on the other side of that hard thing. It never was conditional. It has been here the whole time. You just have to put down the case long enough to receive it. Now, before I let you go, if something in this episode stirred something in you, I want you to know that there's a place to take it further. The free 30-day Conflict to Connection Challenge is exactly this kind of work. One small, honest step at a time for 30 days, straight to your inbox. No perfection required, no falling behind, just 30 days of showing up for yourself. The link is in the show notes. It is free. It starts the moment you sign up. And if you're ready for someone to walk through this with you specifically, I do work with women one-on-one. You can find that at my website or reply to any of my emails, and I would love to chat. Thank you for spending this time with me today. If this episode resonated, share it with one woman who needs to hear it. I'll see you next week. Until then, take care of yourself. You are worth it.